One of my favorite all-time topics. We're going left brain again today. We're going super practical, nitty-gritty into sales and sales mastery. And this is something that no matter how experienced you are as a coach or how new you are as a coach, there's always another level of sales mastery. And usually it comes down to, as an experienced coach, we get really comfortable, maybe a little overconfident, and we forget some of the basics, and all of a sudden sales start sliding, even though we're really confident, even though we know our shit. And sometimes it's helpful to just go back to the fundamentals. I've got two kiddos who are knee deep in athletics and sports, and that's the message that peak athletes get over and over again. Just get back to the fundamentals. The fundamentals never change. And sometimes we get overconfident and we think we've got things nailed down, and then all of a sudden, whew, things start slipping a little bit. And we're watching the World Series right now in our house, and I've been thinking a lot about Aaron Judge. He's 1 for 12. I don't know what happened last night. I know the Yankees finally pulled a win off so that they can continue the series. But I've been watching and I've been talking to my husband about, gosh, he's got the yips. He can't get a hit. He's one of the top players in the world and he still can't get a hit. And my guess would be that the hitting coach is saying, back to the fundamentals. You're too much in your head. You're missing something. Even though you're one of the greatest players of all time, maybe not of all time, but he's working his way there. He is failing significantly. 1 for 12, cannot hit the ball, strikeout after strikeout. Maybe he's lucky if he gets a walk. That's what I'm talking about for sales today as well, is that if you're new, this is going to give you the edge to mastering sales early in your career. If you're experienced, this might just be a great reminder, or even some extra little tips to help you really up your game even further. We're going to talk about 7 little tips that happen throughout the sales conversation and the 3 biggest mistakes that I see coaches making when it comes to creating sales in their business. And I have the luxury, when my clients are willing to be vulnerable and send me their sales conversation, I have the luxury to critique these sales conversations. And I can see exactly where the sales conversation fell off and why the person did not choose to move forward, despite the fact that there was a lot of synergy and a lot of energy and a lot of excitement to resolve their challenges, and knew that coaching was a solution. Somewhere along the way, things got a little wonky and the sale didn't close, and it certainly could have closed. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how do you really maximize your potential and the potential for that client to claim the transformation that they desire and that they want, and not let objections and fears get in the way of claiming the new reality they want to be creating for themselves. So that's our topic for today. Let's dive right in. 7 sales tips. So I'm not going into the structure of the sales conversation. However, the order that I'm putting the tips in is following the structure of the sales conversation. So the very first tip is right out of the gate. I hear and see a lot of coaches who get too caught up in the chit chat and they don't take the lead immediately. And so this is one area, this is your top tip. The second that you get on the call, you as the coach, you as the authority, you as the entrepreneur, must take the lead. You are in control of this call. If you do not take control of the call, it will go off the rails. They will start asking you questions before you're ready to answer them. Things like, how does this work? Or what is the cost? Or how many times do you meet with your clients? All these logistical things. Those questions are not even an appropriate thing to be talking about yet, because we don't even know what they want and we don't even know what they're looking for. So when you get on the call, yes, of course, we're going to say hello, but immediately you want to put them at ease, because they're likely already nervous, and maybe you're nervous too. Again, no matter how experienced you are, sometimes we're working through our own attachment and we're working through just how to really show up as our most powerful selves. So take the lead. So right out of the gate, as soon as you get on the call, put their mind at ease and your own mind at ease, and then they can just let go and enjoy the ride, because you've got it. You've got the reins. So that might sound something like, hey, super excited to connect in with you today. Would it be all right if I share with you how these calls go to maximize our time? Right out of the gate, you're letting them know, hey, these calls go a certain way. There's a structure that gives their brain some relaxation. It allows them to just be like, okay, I don't need to think about what to say. I don't need to think about what to ask. I don't need to think about anything. You have it, right? And so then you get that buy-in and they're like, yes. And now you're able to say, okay, this is exactly where we're going to go today. We're just going to check in a little bit. And then I want to know where you are, where you want to be, what's been getting in your way, what the possibilities are when you overcome these things. And you just give them a little lay of the land so they know what to expect. And then at the end of all of that, if it makes sense, we'll talk about how to create a long-term sustainable solution. Maybe that's working with me, or maybe it's something else. We won't know until we get into it. Easy peasy, setting the stage, setting the agenda, and letting them know exactly what's going to happen on the call. And then again, getting a buy-in. How does that sound to you? And they'll say, great, right? Because they already feel at ease because there's some structure to the call. So that's the first tip, is make sure that you are taking the lead right away. And then go ahead and build some rapport and build some trust and establish some get to know you. The tips that I'm sharing with you are specifically powerful for colder sales conversations. So maybe it's a referral from somebody that you've never met or really talked to. However, they still work for warm conversations as well, because sometimes our warmer contacts or our hotter contacts is when, again, we can just easily fall off the rails and not be laser focused on what needs to be accomplished in that session to be able to support that person in making the best choice for themselves. So first tip, take the lead. Second tip, and this is more of a mindset or an intention. The intention of these calls is not to enroll a new client. That is going to set you up from an attached place right from the start, and it's going to create most of the big mistakes that I'm going to talk about at the end of our conversation today. So the intention that's going to support you the best is something along the lines of, I am understanding and getting the lay of the land about this person in front of me. I am crystal clear on where they are and where they want to go. So it's more of a diagnostic. We're gathering information. We're doing some research. We're getting to know the situation. We don't even know if we can help them until we have the situation clear in our minds about what they want and what they're looking for and where they want to go. And a lot of times we're thinking, will this person become a client? Will this person become a client? And I can assure you're also setting the stage of gathering information of if they're the right fit for you, if you're grabbing some red flags, if it feels like somebody that you know that you'd be excited to work with, or if it feels like somebody that's like, I might not feel quite like the right fit for this person. For me, I always know that I'm working with the right client, or that I'm absolutely going to invite the person to work with me if, while we're doing the lay of the land and they're sharing their desires and they're sharing what they want and they're sharing their vision, and I can catch the vision. I can literally feel in my system excitement for what they're creating. And that's how I know that I'm the right coach for them, because I'm 100% bought into their vision and it feels just juicy and yummy. And I can't wait to help them achieve it. That level of energy that I feel when people start talking about their vision tells me this is a great fit. Now, if somebody's sharing something with me that maybe I don't really get, or I don't understand, or I just don't feel connected to, then I'm probably not the right fit. And I can think of another coach that might be a better fit. It depends on the questions that they're asking, the things that they're talking about, the things that they want. If they want certain things that it's just, I'm not the best person to help them get that, then that's great. Then I can think about connecting them to another resource. And so that's a big piece there, as far as having in your mind, tip number 2, the intention of I'm understanding and getting the lay of the land so that I can determine if I am confident that I can be of great support to this person in getting from where they are to where they want to be. So, tip number 3. Now, this one, in my experience, this is an area that coaches have kind of a tough time with, especially coaches who really easily and quickly see opportunity and solutions. So the third tip is allow for the tension. As you are in these conversations, again, as a coach, coaching, the stage coach helps people get from where they are to where they want to be. That's the whole purpose of our work together with our clients as a coach. We need to get the lay of the land and know that right out of the gate. Where are you and where do you want to be? However, we want to dig deeper than just superficial. We want to know deeply, where are you, and how much does it suck, and how painful is it, and how hard is it, and what is the cost of it, and what is the frustration, and what is it costing you in other areas? This is the building the pain. And a lot of coaches are uncomfortable with that because it can feel like, sometimes they say in marketing, twist the knife, build the pain. However, what the power of this is in building comfortability around it is that, my favorite quote from Dr. Phil, we can't change what we don't acknowledge. And fortunately, due to the collective consciousness, we have shifted into a strong level 3 consciousness. That means that most people are unwilling to acknowledge how shitty things really are, how hard they really are. They are really good at putting a positive spin on it. I watch my husband do this over and over again. I am in a massive lifestyle changes, finding out that I've got some thyroid stuff going on. So I'm eliminating gluten and eliminating dairy, and I'm feeling like a victim about it. And I'm like, gosh, this sucks. He's, yeah. And he rationalized, yeah, but think about you still can have this and you can still do that. And you're going to be eating healthier. And I'm like, you know what? I really just need to allow this to suck right now. Like, I really just need to exhaust this emotion that's inside of me, because if I rationalize it away, it's just going to get stuck and blocked. And it's probably actually going to make me even more sick. So let's just allow it. And he then graciously allows me to be in my cranky bitch fest or whatever it may be. So that's an example of it's uncomfortable for people to feel uncomfortable, especially even to be witnessed being uncomfortable because we're afraid of being judged. However, as you create a safe space for people to really feel their feelings about their current situation, it is a massive gift. You are giving them the space to acknowledge what is there, that their level 3 is likely rationalizing away. They're saying it's not that bad. And so long as they are in a strong rationalizing, coping, seeing the bright side of things, and not feeling the reality and the tension of the situation, they're going to remain stuck. So it's an incredible disservice to not allow people and take people into the depths of the shit that they're experiencing, and even exaggerated. So we have an entire program called Syzygy. That's our whole job, is to get into the layer under the layer in Syzygy. It's an extremely powerful coaching process that ensures that we don't allow people to not exhaust the truth of the emotion that's underneath all of the rationalizations and coping. And what happens at the bottom of it is just almost like a sense of relief. Again, we can't change what we don't acknowledge. We can't change what we're ignoring is there, but it's there. It's all this stuff in the shadows. So build the tension. And I'm telling you, the stronger the tension, because then we get to swing the pendulum to the other side. And if that weren't the case, what would be possible? And what do you want? And what's your vision? And what's your dreams? And we are building the tension. Imagine it's like a rubber band and it's getting tighter and tighter. The tighter that tension is, the more motivation they have, the more likely they're able to experience a level 5 choice. Level 5 meaning a conscious choice, because when the pain of making the change is less than the pain of staying the same, we do something about it. And so this is where that tension is your conversion principle. Like that is your conversion connector. I don't know the right word to say for it, but the more tension there is, the higher the conversion of the sale. Not for us, not because we're coaches who want to get the sale, but because we have a passion and a purpose to help people break through the things that are keeping them stuck and achieve the goals they want to achieve. That can't happen unless they are motivated and engaged and willing to take a risk to do that. The risk is they are parting with financial security, and they are parting with time, and they are facing the reality that even if they do everything, they don't know if it's going to work. It's a huge risk. But what makes that risk more easy for them to take is when it's, I cannot live like this anymore. I have just stared it in the face, and I know this other possibility exists. And that's when the risk to step into the unknown and partner with you as their coach becomes an easier way to say yes. Allow for the discomfort. See it as not a sales tactic or as something that's bad. We have to get comfortable. And anytime that we're judging catabolic energy or judging lower levels of energy or judging having a negative attitude as something bad and that it should be positive, this is our deeper work as coaches as well, is to get so comfortable with that energy, because that's where the opportunity is. That's where the growth is. That's where the real fun begins. And if we can't do that in the sales conversation, then how are we going to do it in a coaching relationship as well? Build the tension, allow for the discomfort. Don't alleviate the discomfort. Just like my husband, we don't have to start coaching. We're not trying to shift the energy. We're allowing for it, and we're just still gathering information. Back to tip number 2. Tip number 4. So anytime that you're feeling some of your own stuff coming up in the sales conversation, ooh, if I say this, am I going to sound salesy? Ooh, if I say this, am I going to put them off? Anytime you feel any of that, those little, oh, I don't know if I want to say this, or I don't know if I want to make the invitation, or I don't know if I want to do that. Maybe it's something bold you want to point out that you're observing that they're unaware of, a deeper pain that they can't even see is happening for them, or a deeper possibility they can't even see that's happening for them. Usually we have no problem sharing that, but sometimes maybe this is, ooh, like there's a big gremlin here and they can't see it and it's hard for them to understand it. Anytime that those little feelings come up, just go back to always getting a buy-in. That's when sometimes we forget and we just don't say it. We don't say, if we see something, we don't say it because we're afraid of rejection or afraid of losing the sale or whatever fear stops us from saying it. Just get the buy-in. So that's tip number 1, 2, 3. That's tip number 4, is just get the buy-in. And especially at the end of the conversation, when you're transitioning to making the invitation or the offer or asking them if they'd like to work with you, get the buy-in. It's really easy. Hey, would you like me to share with you how we might be able to work together to achieve blah, 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 blah that you just told me about? Yes. Awesome. Now you have the permission slip to share. You're not being salesy at all. They're asking you to share with them when they say yes to your buy-in. Tip number 5. So I've alluded to this already, but this is about recognizing that I believe that sales is service. Sales is a spiritual exchange. Sales is the catalyst to somebody saying yes to their transformation. To me, it's like one of the most sacred conversations that we get to have. I would say it's as sacred or even more sacred than the entire coaching relationship. It's the moment they claim their desire and say yes to themselves. I don't know if there's much more that can be exciting in this business than when people like take that risk, take that leap. It's not when they land in the water, it's when they jump off the cliff and they don't know what's going to happen. That's the exciting part, more so than, okay, now I'm in the water and now I swim and now I do this and now I do that. Now I get out. And that's the aftermath of the risk. So this next one is, when it comes to making the invitation, it's recognizing, so sales is sacred, sales is service, but there's also another energy level in here, and that's the 5th level of energy, which is sales is helping people make a conscious choice. So I'm even going to go so far to say that we have an obligation to help people make a conscious choice. And so if they are saying no from a place of fear, then we have an obligation to help them identify that fear and help them make a conscious choice, even understanding that if they still say no, they know that it's coming from fear. That's okay. We can honor the no, even coming from fear. However, if we put our coach hats on, how would we approach a client expressing fear and seeing the fear that's getting in their way and the limiting beliefs and the blocks that are getting in their way? In a coaching relationship, let's bring that same skill set to the table when people are trying to make a decision about whether or not to work with you. It's not personal. And that's where a lot of times our ego gets into the way of these conversations, is because we're thinking about what I do wrong. Why are they saying no? It's like, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with like, now that is an invitation for you to lean in to, okay, let's feel into this. Let's explore some more. Let's seek to understand more deeply. Is this no coming from a place of fear, or is this a conscious no? And we can just simply ask when they're like, no, it's not the right time for me, or no, the like overcoming objections is just more understanding. It's not to actually convince them to say yes if they said no. And the same goes true for if somebody says yes from a fear-based place. If they start having that you're their savior and oh my gosh, and they start absolving themselves of responsibility and you're going to do all of this for me, that's another fear-based place that people are saying yes from. And so we want to nip that stuff right in the butt before we even move forward with anything, because again, how can we support them in the best way that we know how to make a conscious choice? Whether it's a yes or a no, it does not matter, because if it is a conscious choice, it is for the highest good for you and it is for the highest good for them. But if it is a fear-based choice, then they're going to continue to perpetuate the same patterns that they're in and limit their ability to create the thing that they say they want so badly. And if it's a fear-based choice of saying yes, then you're going to have kind of a pain in the ass client, and you're going to be breaking through all sorts of other blocks that are completely unnecessary that could have been just addressed in the sales conversation. And if we take that stance, if we hold that intention, we have one job for this conversation, and it is to support the person in making a conscious choice. That shifts the entire conversation. That shifts your intention. That shifts how you're approaching the conversation. That shifts the questions you ask. That shifts how you feel about objections. It makes it not about you anymore. It makes it not about you or if you're good enough or if your pricing is right or if you did sales good, or it's not about you. It's 100% about how do I just support the person in front of me to make a conscious choice. And if they can recognize that it's a fear-based choice and they're still making that choice, then we honor that. But at the very least, they're walking away with awareness of their fears, which gives them the opportunity to continue to break through them should they choose. It's so cool how like everything in sales is energetic, right? It's all intention and energetics. That's what creates the power of selling, the power of enrolling clients is it's all energetics and intention. And we can get scripts all day long. We can authentically create our own scripts. But at the end of the day, why are we saying what we're saying? Why are we doing what we're doing? That's the intention. And then the intention is actually revealing what the energy level is that we are approaching the conversation from. Okay, number 6. Now we're transitioning to the part of, again, we understand that we're just helping the person make a conscious choice. And the 6th tip is now it's to the point where you're actually, I probably should put this one before the last one, but when you're making your invitation. So we talked about getting a buy-in. So we're at the end of the conversation. This is the last 5 minutes of the conversation, maybe longer, depending on how well we built the tension and how many fears come up when it comes to making the decision from the person in front of you. So I typically would recommend 60 minutes for these calls, that first part of the conversation, because again, if we're really building the tension and we're really building the possibility, that's what's going to be taking the most time because that is the determinant of what's going to allow them to take the risk. So I recommend that whole first part of the conversation, 35-ish minutes, 40-ish minutes, and then transitioning to the invitation. So after you build all the tension, you recap it back. So here's what I'm hearing. It sounds like you really want this, and this is what's getting in the way. And would it be all right with you if I shared another observation with you? Yes, you really want to build your email list. What I'm also hearing is that you've got some fear of putting yourself out there, and there's some deeper blocks that might be showing up for you. So there's some other things that might be interfering with that. So, well, on one hand, yes, you don't know how to build an email list. On the other hand, it sounds like you also are struggling with this, right? So that's an example of how we replay everything back, pare everything back, use your intuitive listening. This is actually tip number 7. Use your intuitive listening, and then you're being bold about how you're putting it back out. So you're intuitively listening and you're bold and you're willing to go there. This is actually another tip that I have on my list here for you. And so you're willing to say, I picked up on this and I can see based on all my experience and knowledge, I'm willing to take the risk. The same thing in a coaching conversation. I'm willing to take the risk to say, this sounds like it's a big block that's also interfering with their ability to achieve what they want to achieve that they're not even aware of yet. It's unconscious. And so we can be bold in that conversation and be able to say and transition the conversation of here's what you say you want, here's what you say is getting in the way. Can I share some other things that I also was hearing that's potentially getting in the way? And can I share some other things that I also was hearing about what you really want? And it's not even about how much money you want to make. What you really want is the true goal, which is freedom and flexibility and spaciousness in your life. And you don't want to burn out again, right? So we're able to use our intuitive listening and we're able to recap it all. And then we're making the transition into the offer. Again, beautiful buy-in. Would you like me to share with you how I can help you do that? Of course, they're going to want you to help share with them how you're going to do that. So now this is the other tip that I want to share. When you share how you're going to help them do that, this is like 95% focused on still their desire and overcoming the things that are getting in the way. These are focused on the emotional benefits, the things that they are envisioning and imagining. That's a powerful word in and of itself, is imagine. So for example, the transition is, okay, let me tell you how it works. So so imagine achieving XYZ. So how I can help you do that is with a private coaching package that we would work through achieving these goals of insert exact benefit that the person wants over 6 months. That's all we say for the logistics. It's like we would work privately for 6 months and help you achieve bold benefit, bold benefit. Imagine what that might be like for you. What would be the benefit of that? So after you share the bold benefits, now you ask them, what would be the benefit of that for you? To have a partner by your side helping you get from here to here. And you fill in exactly what they said. And now they sell themselves. And so what we're not focusing on is we would meet for 60 minutes, 3 times a month. The fourth week is for your integration. You'd also have access to me on email. You can send me things. I'll send you the contract. All of those things are logistics. They're completely unnecessary right now. The logistics play no part in the person's decision unless they have very specific questions, which they can ask you. If they're not asking you those questions, they're irrelevant. So many clients have signed up with me. They don't even know what they signed up for. They don't know how many times we're meeting. They don't know this. They don't know that because it doesn't matter to them because we've established a relationship of trust and authority that I know how to support them in reaching their goals. And to them, they don't care if it's 1 time a month, if it's 4 times a month, if it's 8 calls, if it's nonstop access to me. They don't care about the logistics because we did the sales call in a way that they just want what they want and they want help getting it. Now, that's why we keep the logistics super tiny because the second that we start going into logistics, it's putting people into the other side of their brain, which is not which just creates a lot of complexity. The brain automatically starts trying to connect all the dots, which pulls them out of the emotion and the intuition, which are the driving forces to the decision. Yes, we want them to do it holographically, so we give them the information they need, like how much time are you going to be investing? We'll have 3 sessions a month, an hour each session, whatever it may be, right? But literally the logistics are just 5 minutes. So when you make your invitation, you share 5 minutes of the logistics, 5 minutes of the benefits, and then I'm just making shit up. It could be 2 minutes and 7 minutes. It could be 2 and 2. It doesn't matter. But mostly you're just reframing the benefits connected to any of the logistics. Any logistic you share, you're piggybacking a benefit on it that they're looking to achieve. And then you are asking them, what would you see as the benefit of having a coach by your side to help you achieve these things? And then they get to sell themselves. Just let them do the emotional processing, and they will. And then you can ask, because you didn't cover a whole lot of logistics, then you can ask, what other questions do you have for me in order for us to get started? You're assuming the sale. So there's some other little mini tips in here too. You're assuming the sale. Of course they want what they want. Of course they want help. Of course they want to achieve it faster. Of course they want to break through the things. Like, why wouldn't they? So we're going to assume the sale. They're on the call already, so we're not going to tiptoe around it. We're going to assume the sale. So what other questions do you have in order for us to get started? It is assuming the sale while simultaneously giving them the space to make sure that all their questions are answered. This is where they're likely going to ask, how much is it? Your decision is already made. Really, it is. And so then you say the investment and you don't say anything else. The investment is $1,200 a month or $6,000 paid in full, whatever it is. And then you just hold space. Again, you might have to allow for the discomfort and not go into proving or talking or this is why it charges, actually it's cheaper than other people. Just don't say anything after you say the investment. Allow the person to process whatever emotion is coming up. And if the silence gets to be too much for you to bear, I've held that silence for 4 minutes where it's just, we just sit. And then they say, are you still there? I said, yep, I'm just giving you the space to really take in and process so you can make the best decision for yourself. So that tip was focused on the benefits, not the logistics. And then we talked about being intuitive and listening boldly and going there. And then another little bonus tip in there was asking them, what would you see as the benefit of finally saying yes to this vision that you have with a partner like me by your side? And then they start envisioning what it's going to be like to work with you and what it's going to be like to have somebody helping them and holding them accountable for everything. Okay, let's hop into the 3 things that I see happening a lot on coaching calls. And they're totally understandable and normal because we oftentimes see our prospects as in their fullest potential and as the version of themselves that they want to be. And so I'm sharing these, and then there's also our own inner blocks that come in and hijack the conversation. So I'm sharing that because some of these mishaps that kill the sale are because we overestimate our clients, which is a great thing to be doing, and underestimate ourselves. The first one is tiptoeing around the offer. I actually just had a call with one of my clients. They have had multiple very successful businesses. They've been in sales for decades, and they are just starting a coaching practice, and it's a whole different ballgame because it's a personal brand and we're selling essentially an invisible offer, something that's invisible. It's not tangible. It's not especially well known. It's super customized based on the individual we're connecting with. It's just a different type of selling, and it's high ticket and like higher ticket than a lot of things. And so we were talking and they said, yeah, I've had the sales calls and almost everybody I talk to, it's like they have a breakthrough on the call. And then like I can see the next things that they're going to be bumping up against and I can see all the opportunity. And so I asked them, I said, how did you end the call then? Like they just had this huge, massive experience. They made a major life transforming decision on the call and they're ready to run. And they're also freaking scared to death. How did you end the call? And they said, I just told them if there's anything else I can help with, just reach out anytime. Just let me know. I'm here for you. And we've identified that there may be some additional hiccups you're going to hit through this major life transition. Yeah, I'm happy to support you if that would be helpful for you. It sounds very nice. And yet they did not even give their potential client the opportunity to go further or to make a choice. They ran in the other direction. And so I'm just going to share, like, that's actually being very selfish in a way. On one hand, yes, you're seeing your prospect as fully capable of making all of their own decisions. But on the other hand, you're not even teeing it up for them to be able to make the decision. And so I also relayed that in a situation like this, like energy is going to attract like energy. So if your prospect is operating from the same energy that you're operating from, they might be thinking, oh, I don't want to be a burden. I've already received so much. They might be having the same fear of rejection. This fear of rejection over here is I'm afraid of sounding salesy. I'm afraid of being pushy. I'm afraid of doing things that are going to push this person away. So I'm just going to opt out because I don't want to be seen that way. All about me, myself, and I. Oh, I don't want to be seen that way. Oh, I'm going to tiptoe around it. Oh, I'm going to pull out. Oh, I'm going to leave it all up on them under the guise that they're powerful people. But the reality is this is insecurity. So if like energy matches like energy, this person, if they're viewing the conversation through the exact same lens, potentially, they're thinking, ooh, I've already taken too much. Ooh, I don't want to be pushy. Ooh, I don't want them to think that I'm needy. Boom, nothing's going to happen. And it could have been a perfect partnership. It already was. But both of them bailed because they're probably like energy in some way, shape, or form. And so the interpretation is I'm going to be perceived as salesy. And that's usually what causes us to tiptoe around an invitation and an offer is we start to be afraid of how we're going to be perceived, which is fear of rejection, which is the first level of consciousness and energy. And that then interferes with the ability to even continue the conversation. It actually cuts off the conversation. It cuts off the intimacy. It cuts off the connection because now we're in our head. And so that's probably one of the biggest mistakes. I had another client at one time. She also extremely successful, was a multiple six-figure coach. This is an example of an experienced coach who forgot the fundamentals. And she wanted to start transitioning onto building an online business as opposed to just offline, which was very successful, but she'd capped out and she wanted to scale further. So she wanted to get online. And she assumed that the online game was different than the offline game. And so she was doing all her stuff and she was having all these conversations and loads of coffee chats and she was getting tons of traction on LinkedIn. Everything was going, yet she was making zero money off of all of her efforts. And I just asked her, I said, how many offers have you made? How many people have you actually said, this is how much it costs to work with me, and invited them to work with you? And it was like 4 months we had worked together and everything looked like it was just going great, but there were no sales coming in. And she said, zero. I was like, well, no wonder why there's no money coming in. We found the gap. We found the missing piece. Like, here, you've got everything, and we just haven't brought it home because you thought these coffee conversations, like that, then they would just reach out if they wanted to work with you. People are not going to just reach out if they want to work with you. Generally speaking, they don't usually take the initiative. I know in my practice, I get a lot of, I didn't think you were taking clients. I didn't think you were really available. If I would have known that, I would have reached out. We have to make those invitations. Okay, so that's the first thing. And when I say it's selfish, is it's not selfish, it's just strong ego interfering with the conversation. Level one is where our ego is the strongest. And we miss it because we think ego is level two. Oh, I think I'm the best that's ever been. No, level one is a much stronger ego than level two. And so it's very egotistical to not make invitations based on fear of rejection or based on thinking people are going to think we're salesy. We're literally robbing people of the opportunity to make a choice. Clarity is kindness. If they don't even know the option is there, how can they choose it? So we're being clear. This is available, no strings attached. We can still be detached and also make the invitation. Okay, that's sale killer number one. Let me check here. Definitely having an inner block come up, as I see, is undermining the call, which is more about how I actually will work with them, what the program is, how we'll get them from where they are now to where they want to be. I'm not sure if that's because I don't have a structured program of the work we'll do in each session. Yeah, that's a great question, and also a completely natural thing. And here's the thing, if you have a signature program, so in the sales conversation, I actually keep a list. Like, I know the most common things that people are going to come to the call with, and you can use ChatGPT, or if you know off the top of your head, know off the top of your head. But in my actual sales script, I have a list of all of the key topics that my ideal client may be challenged by, or may be struggling with, or may be causing their inability to move and achieve the goals that they want to achieve. And so in the conversation, I just check off the list of the things that come up, because they might have everything else. So what's interesting about a signature program is that you might have a signature program, but it's only 50% of it is relevant for the client you're talking to. So now it creates a new objection, because they don't need half of what you're offering, right? And so the reason why I just keep a checklist is I only offer the aspects of the things that are relevant for the person I'm talking to. They don't need my whole smorgasbord. They just need the thing that's going to help them move forward the fastest to achieve the goals they want to achieve. And so there's advantages and disadvantages of signature programs. The advantage is that it creates a certainty, like there's a pathway in your buyer's mind. And so buyers like certainty. It reduces risk, right? However, we can provide that certainty with or without a signature program. And so my recommendation is to authentically be able to say, I've got a great idea of a customized program for you that we'll work through in our coaching partnership. And then I just read off the things on my checked list. Here's what I see us working on: crafting a powerful message that resonates and is compelling for your ideal clients. Sales. So you have your process, especially if you're well niched. You can think about, where are they now and where do they want to be? And then just brainstorm what all needs to happen in order for them to get from where they are to where they want to be. And think about the inner stuff, think about the outer stuff, think about the practical stuff, and just make a list. And then when you start identifying gaps based on the conversation, just check them and then say, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to invite you into a customized program where we laser focus on the exact pieces that are missing from helping you blah to blah. And so some of the things that we would focus on during our coaching partnership might be that. And also anything else that continues to come up. So improv in sales is probably like the best skill that you can have. And again, we're doing this authentically, because if you know that it's something that you can help with, then just customize it on the spot. And it still provides the person the certainty they're looking for, doesn't overwhelm them because it's more than they're looking for, but also allows you to know how to move into that conversation. So that's another little tip that hopefully will help. So if you build out a major structured program, guess what? Not everybody's going to need the same thing. That's the cookie cutter stuff. And coaching is personalized and customized. And most of us get pretty frustrated when people try to put us into a box and they say, I don't need that. And we start picking it apart right away. I don't need that. And I don't need that. And I don't need that. I need that. And then it just gets us back into our head. So a signature program can have the opposite effect as well. The only intention we have for a signature program is for the prospect's certainty, so they can feel some comfortability that there is a pathway to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. And for our own comfortability, because we have our own imposter syndrome or our own stuff coming in, and our brains want the same level of certainty that our prospects' brains want. But again, it's more about the energetics of what it provides than the actual signature program. Because once you get into the coaching relationship, anything goes. I'll share another example with this, because in order to secure funding, and especially probably when you do corporate proposals or anything like that, like there has to be some structure to it, but you've already diagnosed everything to be able to create the proposal. And so when we did our youth program, there was a very clear curriculum and structure. However, there was a lot of flexibility in the structure. So because we worked off of the energy leadership development system, we just did the three of the first four segments. That was the structure to open up the conversation. And sometimes and it would be a 16-week engagement because it'd be for a full semester. So we only had really 4 of the 16 weeks fully structured. And then the rest of it was like, as things came up, I'd create resources. Maybe we'd go into another segment of the ELDS. Like all of those were options. Like basically as different things came up in the coaching conversation, we had additional tools and exercises to grab, or we would just continue to do traditional coaching. But that was a beautiful both and, where we had the structure in the curriculum to be able to create certainty for our funders, certainty for our partners, certainty for the school to allow us to pull kids. Like that provided something. So it wasn't just, we're just going to see what happens out there. But it also created plenty of flexibility to allow for the magic of a true coaching partnership and a coaching relationship, and to address anything that was imminent in the moment for the client when they were coming in. Okay, hopefully that helps. I often forget to invite for continuing coaching at the end of conversation. Can you give an example of how to make that offer without them asking, this is how much it costs to work with me? I would get the buy-in. First of all, I would say one of my favorite ways to transition into the invitation is after intuitively listening. Like I know the things that tell me that I'm the right fit. So I'll share that. I'll say something like, I'm really confident that I can help you achieve XYZ. And the reason why I'm so confident is I can see the vision and I can catch it. And that's not always the case. And so I always know that I am a great fit if you're really interested in partnering and working with a coach, when I can catch the vision and your vision really inspires me. Now, the other reason why I know that we would be a great fit to potentially work together is because you have a lot of energy. Like we can pick up, especially as energy leadership coaches, we pick up on like you're visionary, you're motivated, you have a track record of success. So I know your red rope policy. So I've got another little list on my sales script that's my red rope policy. And as soon as I can see and feel and hear that they're hitting on that red rope policy, I'll just relay that back. I'll say, I'm really confident that I can help you. I've helped many people in your situation before, and here's why. Because you're awesome, you kick ass, you have a big vision, you're my kind of girl or guy, right? Whatever it is. And so I'll say that, and then I'll say, would you like to hear what that might look like? And then they're like, yes, right? So then again, I just say, okay, so what I'd love to invite you into is my 6-month coaching program. What that means is we'll be working one-on-one privately to help you achieve benefit over those 6 months. And then I'd say, and what would you see as the main benefits of having someone like me by your side helping you achieve those things? And then they sell themselves. So yeah, it would just be, oh, and then if they don't ask the price. This is how much it costs. Oh, they just are like, yes, I'm in. Then I just say, okay, great. Our next steps are, let's go ahead and schedule your first session and I'll send over the invoice. I do payment links, but if you're a newer coach, I recommend grabbing payment on the call. And so I might say, okay, great. Let's get your first session scheduled. And then would you like to pay on credit card today? Or how would you like to pay? I can take credit card today, or I can go ahead and send over a payment link. Something like that. That's how you get into a little bit more of the logistics. Okay, woo. Sales compromiser number 2. Oh, I do adore Rich Litvin's philosophy about coaching the hell out of people for 2 hours so they can see the power of coaching. I love it because it's such a high service based philosophy. And I don't love it because it doesn't create true tension, and it puts the focus on what coaching is and the power of coaching instead of on the prospect. And like the story I was sharing in number 1, where that was really great. Thank you. It alleviates all the tension. And so then they're not in any tension to be able to make that leap from where they are to their bigger level 5. I see it a lot like a Band-Aid. And they may come back and they may not. And you have a powerful relationship and they've experienced the power of coaching. There's so many great things, but at the end of the day, it's not, to me, the most impactful sales approach. Thing that kills sales the most, number 2, is going into a coaching session, doing all the coaching too much on the call, alleviating the tension and then trying to make the offer when they're like, I feel really good. When we coach too much and we alleviate the tension, we interfere with their ability to create or make a decision on the long-term solution, which it's a temporary solution. It's a temporary shift as opposed to a sustainable shift over the long haul. Coaching on the call at all, I wouldn't recommend too much. A little tiny bit, but again, if we start shifting too much on the call, then the tension's fully released and it's like the air out of the balloon just went out. And then you're like, hey, would you like to hear we could work together? And you're like, no, I think I'm good. I think I'm really good. Thank you so much for your time. This was awesome. Maybe we'll talk again someday. And they're just gone. So coaching too much on the call is sales compromiser number 2. Compromiser number 3 is talking too much on the call altogether. The sale is going to go in the direction of who speaks the least. Now, not that it's like a competition, like it's either going my way or it's going their way, but at the end of the day, when we are talking too much and not fully listening and not allowing, this is definitely my biggest sales compromiser, not really allowing for and just asking the questions in a strategic way to keep allowing them to be in their emotions, to feel what they're feeling, to dream big with a witness. The more that we witness in the sales conversation, as opposed to speak, the more powerful it's going to be for that prospect and the easier it's going to be for them to make a conscious choice. The less you speak, the higher your conversion rate. And obviously there's times where the person might be say like, what do you think? Or they might be asking you to come in and interject and speak more. You're going to follow their lead to some level, keeping in mind always the tension piece as well as the helping them make a conscious choice at the end about working with you. But at the end of the day, it's typically just if you're invited to speak more, other than when you get to the end and you're recapping everything and you're making the invitation. So you're asking the questions, allowing speak. You might even just say, what else? What else? What else? And it's just like a coaching session essentially, but it's structured because you know what you're asking and the information that you're wanting to gather. So a lot of times we end up speaking too much or coaching too much from the energetic and intention of needing to prove our value, needing to prove the value, needing to prove it works, needing to prove ourselves. And so again, that's very egotistical. That's all about us. That's not selling is serving. That's not selling is a sacred exchange. That's a selling is I'm insecure and you giving me this sale would make me feel more secure. And that's giving our power away. There's a couple of things that I used to always do before sales calls. And that was one, I would say the affirmation, I am whole and complete and worthy no matter what happens with this person in front of me. They have no say. Their decision means nothing about my wholeness, completeness, and worthiness. So again, just anything you can do to set yourself up for detachment. The other little tip that I have before sales calls is to I typically do a vision that makes my heart all warm and me full of gratitude and helps me show up on the call with a smile on my face and helps me show up in a heartwarming place of gratitude, which also just affirms the wholeness and completeness and worthiness that has nothing to do with any sort of external outcome. Okay, so there we go. And we are complete. We'll see you all in a couple weeks. Thank you for being here and sending you all the best during this beautiful fall season, wherever you are in the world. All right, bye.